Hey everybody, this is Kodak here, and we are taking a look at the stuff that I grabbed at Free RPG Day 2024. Now, Free RPG Day, for those of you who don't know, is basically the tabletop role-playing game equivalent of Free Comic Book Day. It is a day designed to encourage people to show up, try out TTRPG games, and maybe try out something they haven't before. And while I know it's called Free TTRPG Day, I of course bought something anyway, because that's just to be polite. You're encouraged to buy something. A lot of stores put on sales when they're having Free Comic Book or Free RPG Day, but you know, to buy something is a basic quid pro quo to tell people to encourage them to go for it. So I got the Sonic the Hedgehog trade for Imposter Syndrome. It's a fun little story about this guy in the back here, Starline the Platypus, who creates basically knockoff versions of Sonic and Tails. I especially love the running pose they have on here. It kind of reminds me of that one Pikachu, Raichu Pokemon short from back in the day. But anyway, we're going to be taking a look at these, although I'm not really going to go into detail on the contents of them that much, because, you know, I would like to encourage people to actually attend these events, figure them out for themselves, but I do have one very simple criteria. It's sort of my Bechdel test for these things, is the platonic ideal of a Free RPG Day module is that it is sort of an all-in-one way to try out a game system. It contains just enough instructions for people to try out an engine that isn't like Dungeons of Dragons or WoD or whatever it is you play. And it's usually an inclusive all-in-one, containing a storyline, basic play rules, and some characters that are already pre-generated. Pre-generated characters, in my opinion, are really important to have for these, because it takes a long time to make your first character the first time you try a new system. Like, if you've spent your entire life playing Dungeons and Dragons, or if like the only game you've touched is 5e, and you go to make a character for World of Darkness, you're going to have a very interesting time because of how different that system is. Although first I think I should probably start with this, because this is actually sort of an interesting little thing, because, you know, ideally, your player character sheets are like one page front to back, and you can just tear it out and pass it to your players. It's actually printed on like a notepad sort of thing with like the cardboard backing, and it's a system where you literally do just tear off page after page after page. So you tear off the first page, and that tells you how to play, then you tear off the next few pages, and those are like the character sheets that you hand to your players, and then you go on to like pulling out like the different parts of the map, and you have a little adventure. It's a cool idea. I'd love to try this out. It is unfortunately quite literally a one-shot, as in, you know, Cat Kid with the light bulb kind of one-shot. But it's a very interesting idea. Now, when it comes to the gold standards of these things, I would like to direct you to Low-Key Battle Mats. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. But they basically make what I consider to be the gold standard of these kinds of things. I love them so much that the store I went to, I actually went to some place in the country this time, which is why they let me walk away with so much. They weren't expecting a lot of traffic. It was crazy hot. But I actually left the Loki Battle Mat entry behind this time because they were only sent 2 copies, and I didn't want to deprive anyone else of the joy of discovering these books. These books are the gold standard. Every year at Free RPG Day, they are the valedictorian, and they do so in a way that is totally free for any of these other companies to do. I was talking about how I like, you know, tear out character sheets, you know, maps and props and stuff like that. What Loki Battle Mats do is they place those things on the staples. So you literally just pry open the staples from the book, and you can extract the maps and the character sheets and the props, and you can do it without actually having to rip any paper or damage the book. And when you're done, you can just put it back inside. And the crazy part about this is that you can do this, any of these guys who release books can do this absolutely free. All they have to do is reorder the pages so that the parts that you want to remove to hand to players fall on the staples. Pay attention to how your booklets are going together, and you can get this exact same trick literally for free. There is practically no excuse not to do it this way. Now, Speaking of excuses, however, I will be fair and talk about a lot of the ones that I got that simply did not contain any character sheets at all. Now, in the case of a lot of these, it's because they are designed to work with a system that already exists. For example, these are all for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. The one for Starfinder is actually just straight up a bestiary. I think they're doing a Starfinder 2nd edition to go with Pathfinder 2nd edition. You have Dungeon Crawl Classics. I love these guys. I used to play their like 3.5 modules back in the day, but they actually have a system where you generate a mob of peasants, and whichever peasants survive your first level 0 encounter. This is a level 1 encounter. This is actually like a later encounter. Whoever survives the level 0 encounter will go on to become your player character. So you roll like characters with like really bad stats. It's wild. It's harkening back to like the old like really brutal roll, save or die stuff from, you know, back in the day. But their quick play rules are really easy to find, and you're supposed to have super expendable characters. And in general, I can understand if a module does not want to include pre-generated characters. They are very good to have if you want to include them in the game so that people can just get to playing right away. But I can understand if your goal is to try to appeal more to people who already have the system or whose quick play rules were easy to find. Like, their quick play rules which was just a rule book that takes you from level 0 to 2, was also a free RPG Day thing. So the idea is that it's like it saves chaff for people who already have the system. It saves you money on printing because that's fewer pieces of paper you have to put out. The downside is, like I said, I feel a good free RPG Day is sort of an all-inclusive thing that you can just, you know, whip out. The DM spends maybe half an hour reading it. They pass out the character sheets and you start playing. And then we have this thing. Like last year they had one that was G.I. Joe and Transformers, and unfortunately, despite how this cover looks, it is not an epic crossover event, but instead basically a really weirdly open-ended adventure that's designed to be adapted for each of the systems. I feel like it's, you know, trimming the fat a bit too aggressively, but there's no pre-generated characters. There's not even any maps. This feels a bit more like a WoD sort of thing. And by the way, why even do a crossover with these? Every time I would just pick to be a Transformer and squish the bad guys with my giant robot feet. I don't know how this would ever work. And then we have like some quick start guides, and I think we're finally going to get into it, is how do we have pre-generated characters at all? So this is RuneScape. I don't think I need to introduce RuneScape to you. I'm pretty sure this is that RuneScape, but they have a player's guide here with a bunch of, you know, generic basic profile pictures, and it has no character sheets inside of it. It has a bestiary, it has actually kind of a nice map, but I don't think it comes with any pre-generated characters. I think you're supposed to make one, but like I said, that takes time. I guess because this is based on an MMO, you're supposed to build a character who matches the character that you use in the video game, which, you know, take that as you will. But now we are finally here. We are at the stack of games that actually do include pre-generated characters. Now, like I said, the ideal way to do a pre-generated character is to make it so that they land on a single sheet of paper, front and back, so I can simply tear it out from the book and hand it to my player, and we can have a good time. I have no idea why they would do it any other way. There are two ways that these companies do it, and one of them makes me just unnecessarily angry. The first way they do it is they print the characters on the same side. They will print it on the front, or they'll print like one character on the front and one character on the back. That means that two players would have to pass the paper back and forth if you tear it out. That's a real pain in the butt. But the worst is when they do it as a 2-page spread. Because, I mean, I guess the idea is that so you can read just the character in one go, but how am I supposed to manage that? Am I supposed to grab a copy of the module for every single one of my players? That sounds greedy and wasteful. Am I, you know, just handing my players basically the cheat codes to the adventure so they can at any time just kind of flip through the book and you know, get the answers they want? That seems like that's not going to be something terribly conducive to a good, like, efficient adventure. And the worst part of it is that it literally makes them one step away from getting it right. All they had to do was change the order of a single page and they all could have been single-page tear-outs to hand to my players. And, you know, I find those especially galling. I did a whole video about them this time, and now we're going to run this actually not inherently, you know, small gauntlet to see where we go. We're going to have a winner's pile and a loser's pile. So let us start with the X-Men role-playing game. This is the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. I do have to give you points for printing it in comic book format. That is, that's very cool. So it is a game, like I said, it's printed in on a comic book format. Perfect size for bag and board if you want to do that. Of course, I picked up a Miles Morales bonus card from my comic book shop ages ago, but I kind of stuck it in there to go with the characters, who are Bishop and... oh no, they're front to back! Well, the only one who's not back is Gambit. He's literally the back cover, but you can kind of see how this is a problem. Like, the players would like have to constantly pass the book back and forth, and that's time it's not spending in the Dungeon Master's hands. Huge pain in the butt. You fail. You fail! Get back in there, Miles. Come on, Spider-Man. Spider-Man goes wherever a spider can. Okay. Next we have Arzium, a quick play guide. This was sort of an oddball entry there. You can see it has a pretty simple and basic art style. I actually don't really know much about the system that I am looking at here, but let's have a look at those character sheets. We have Merzum 6, the ancient robot, and ooh, look at that! It's all on one page. Grakor, the Toad Folk. Look at that picture. That's Mr. Toad when he's gone over the edge. But yeah, it's front to back. So this is perfect. They even have like cut lines in there. I do wish they had centered it over the staples, but hey, we have character sheets that I can tear out and pass to my players. And by the way, they have the back of the sheet here. This is a good place to put like a cheat sheet for magic and stuff. If you need to do that, if you have like a spellcaster, so that they don't have to constantly take the book from the Dungeon Master to do it. So yeah, you pass.
He passes.
Up next, Red Tundra by World of Darkness. I gave them a lot of beef last year for how they handled A Taste of Red Moon, which was their Vampire the Masquerade one. First of all, Werewolf The Apocalypse is finally going into 5th edition. Hooray! I mean, I don't know how long it's been in 5th edition. I know there's a lot of people waiting for things like Mage and Changeling and all that. But Vampire, Hunter, and Werewolf are definitely the big ones. Werewolf tends to be a lot more combat-centric. There tends to be a lot more fighting. You are literally a pack of wolves, after all. Let's have a look inside. Oh, this looks like it might be sets of back-to-front sheets, but I have bad news. These are spreads. They are spreads. They literally could have taken this picture from the back of the book, or any picture from the back of the book, slash it here, and just shifted this over, and these could have been tear-outs. Because the thing is, they look like you're supposed to tear them out. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if some people mistook those little markings there for like scissor marks. It looks like you're supposed to tear it out, because if you just tore it out, it looks like a front-to-back character sheet. But no, these are the most confusing spreads I've ever seen. I sure hope nobody tried to rip these sheets out. Like I said, what am I supposed to do with this? Get a copy for every single player? Do I have to, like, go to a photocopy machine? I really wish I could have just, you know, like I said, they were one step closer to getting it right. They're one step away. Fail. You failed! Up next, Avatar Legends, the role-playing game. I remember I gave this game a lot of guff when I first saw it, because it struck me as a game where you lose by getting your feelings hurt. And I don't know, it seemed like, I felt like there wasn't as much agency in things as I like, but maybe it's like more of a WoD style game where it's more about actions rather than like contested actions or anything like that. But we have one set in the 100-Year War era. The last one we got last year was like a quick play guide with like fairly extensive rules and things like that, set in the Korra era. This one is set in the pre-Avatar: The Last Airbender era, between the death of the fire avatar. Actually, I don't know why I forgot his name, but between Aang and that. And let us have a look. It's about moving refugees past the Fire Nation. And let's have a look. We have Ray the Adamant and... oh! 2 characters! 1 page per character. I can tear these out and pass them to my players. Good job! You pass.
He passes.
Up next, we have Root, the role-playing game. This is the RPG Day Hacksaw Dell Quick Start. I actually got another Quick Start in my press bag at PAX Unplugged back in 2022, so I know a little bit about Root, the role-playing game. It's actually based on a board game called Root, which is, you know, basically it's about societies of whatever might be considered, you know, a little like small forest creatures, you know, like rescuers or something like that. There's lots of stories like that, like Beatrix Potter or Mr. Toad or anything in that regard. Speaking of Toad, there's Mr. Toad right there looking extra suspicious. But yeah, it is another game that is very much, you know, WoD-like, a lot of social interactions, a lot of that kind of thing. Let's have a look at those pre-generated characters, because it does come with pre-generated characters. The folks who do like Chuckles the Clown on YouTube, I've all like the Chuckles the Clown shorts, like about the undead clown guy. They're doing a Root run through right now. And our characters are, oh no, they are one-sided. So you either have to have multiple copies of the book or constantly pass it around. That's really annoying. I don't like it. You fail. You fail! Up next we have Dragon Bane. This one actually comes out of Europe, if I recall correctly. It is a sinking tower quick start guide. And this one, you know, it was a little unfortunate when I first spotted it because, you know, it's in the red and the yellow and there was like another book on top of it. So I was like, dude, they made an RPG for Dragon Bane! Oh man. Although I am certain there has to be at least 5 different like Dragon Ball Z like tabletop role-playing games out there at some point. I mean, you would have a lot of martial classes, but you also have characters like Bulma and Sorbet who would probably make up something interesting. So Dragon Bane is it's by Free League Publishing, which I believe is out of Europe. And let us have a look at, oh, we got some nice maps. Ooh, they're actually in the middle. So they're in the middle, so these, if I wanted to take out the maps, I could take out the maps and use their diagrams if I wanted to, because they are on the staples, so that's nice. The character sheets are not on the staples. Instead, they're in the back, and oh, that's Mackender of Half Bay, but this says Chrysana the Bold on the actual character sheet here, and there's Chrysana the Bold. So we have, again, when these are actually, I can actually feel it, they're perforated, and I can actually feel that these are perforated deliberately to be torn out and handed to players. And I like how they've done it like this. We have, you know, the pictures of the characters. You can set the characters out on this side, and people can say, ooh, I like the look of that character, and they can grab it. And yes, this is definitely a very good one. You guys pass.
He passes.
And finally, Pathfinder. I admit, Pathfinder, I am a little disappointed that you started something new rather than completing the Flowers trilogy. You did Fistful of Flowers, and for a few flowers more, but you didn't do the good, the blooming, and the ugly. You have failed me, and I am very disappointed. But the Great Toy Heist. It is another Pathfinder module for level 2. You play as characters, I believe they're called puppets, which are like animated toys, which are, I guess, from a Rogue issue of their magazine or something like that. But I do like how the Pathfinder ones make you play as unusual races. I did an all kobolds campaign like back when I was in college, and that was pretty fun. But how about those character sheets? Oh no, they're a spread, which again I say is a problem because it means they were literally 1-page rearrangement from making them cards that I can tear out and give to my players. You fail. You fail! So that's the look at what I got to see if they passed my basic threshold of character sheets. We actually got more than I was expecting this year. Dragon Bane, Avatar Legends, and Arzium all had good tear out sheets. And here's the thing I keep harping on, the thing I keep pointing out is arranging these books so that they are user-friendly is literally free. You can literally anytime rearrange the pages in your book so your props and character sheets and maps are all things in the middle that you can open the staples and pull out. You can literally do it for free. It should not just be this one company every single year putting everybody to shame. It's about showmanship. It's about presentation. A huge part of tabletop RPGs is that showmanship, is that presentation, and I would like to see more of that practical application happen with these modules. That said, I hope you guys had a good free RPG day. I hope you bought something, and I hope that you guys have a lot of fun with what you made. And All of you guys who watch my videos, if you have any interest at all, please make sure you do this. I know Dragon Bane has emailed me at least once, so I'm very proud of them for apparently following my advice when it comes to arranging these books. So yeah, that is Free RPG Day 2024, and until next time, this is Kodak signing off.